My name is Ann Malone, and I'm a resident in the city of Phoenix, Arizona, which is where we are right now. Who I am is a woman who's been married for 31 years to the same wonderful man she met when she was 18 years old, and we have 7 children. I discovered that there was a man living behind the wall of my house, and I didn't think a whole lot about it, actually. I thought, oh, you know, homeless guy. My next door neighbor called the police, and I didn't think anything else about it again. Over the course of the next 4 months, evidently, nothing ever happened. And it wasn't until the end of that 4-month period that I became aware again that he was there. I find out that he's still there 4 months later, and that, in fact, there have been 3 more police contacts. And now there's a big camp, and there's mattresses, and there's lots of people, and there's equipment being fenced, and all kinds of stuff. And I am stunned, because I thought you call the police and then things get taken care of. An officer finally came who, in fact, did make contact with this man. The other officers basically said, oh, just move it along, or if he wasn't there, they didn't come back. He was a multi-time convicted felon, a violent felon, and he had been living there carte blanche for months. And behind me is a low-income apartment complex, so it wasn't just my 7 children, 5 of whom were still living at home, that were at risk. It was all these children in this little apartment complex as well. And but it was so confusing to me, because police are good. Police are very, very good. And for a police officer not to do what is his job, I believe that there had to be a big reason. And so I talked to the officer that made the arrest, and he said, the fact of the matter is, we have been trained systemically not to make these kinds of arrests, because we are out on the street trying to protect our geographic area. We are trying to protect our brother officers. We make an arrest like this, it takes us off the street for at least 4 hours, and then we turn around and this guy is back on the street before we are. And it's this revolving door of misdemeanor crime, because nobody thinks it's that big of a deal. He's just trespassing. He's just urinating and defecating in public. He's just drinking. He's just this, just. And so the courts are not seemingly taking it seriously. The prosecutors have tens of thousands of cases. They're overwhelmed. These are quality of life crimes that are really impacting, you know, families and local businesses, and nobody seems to hear it. And then our officers only have so much time, only have so much ability. How many times are they going to expose themselves to staph infections like MRSA and other non-curable infections when there's no percentage in it? They know that this person's not going to go to jail. And what about the jails? This has been a problem in the city of Phoenix for 12 years that I have documented, that they've been talking about it. You know, in the private sector, if you had a problem for 12 years, you would be fired. And so I said to this street officer, well, you know, how's it going to get fixed? That was a huge mistake, because he then said, until a citizen gets involved and unites businesses and homeowners, the city won't listen. So for 2 hours a day, I just went up and down Indian School Road into every business and said, hi, I live over here, and I had a guy living behind my wall. And then the stories came. And everybody had a story. Everybody had an incident. Everybody had something. And everybody was mad at their local police. I call the police, and then they don't do anything. They just shoo him away. Or if they do something, he's back the next day. And again, this is just wrong. I know this couldn't be right. And so that's when I started to go along and interview people, at the same time that I started to build the organization. And so now we're 2 years into it, and we have 18 neighborhood associations with over 19,420 households and 700 businesses citywide, because they all believe that we need to require the prior, we need to stop this revolving door, and we need to support our frontline officers. And we're fighting to fix the jail and get that streamlined so that we can have more officers out on the street quicker. We try to keep everybody connected. All of a sudden, everybody in this shopping center knew each other. All of a sudden, all these neighborhood associations knew who these people were. All of a sudden, people were starting to want to shop local and support each other. And all of a sudden, everybody understood that our frontline officers were hurting as much as we were, and we didn't want that to be the way anymore. Since we started fighting this, and we are fighting, which is unfortunate that citizens are actually fighting with the administration of the police, because this is an ideology. There's a sort of a 911 model of police where you chase those screaming sirens, and then there's the No More Broken Windows, which you have in New York City, which is essentially where I'm from, and I grew up in the 60s and 70s when it was ugly there. And now as a middle-aged woman, I can go into the middle of Times Square with my sister and be like, whoa, you know, I feel safer there than I do here. And that's not good. We can't be the 5th largest city in the country if we're not also economic and physical safety are not a part of that. And that's what I'm trying to bring to the attention of the city officials. And so what I'm trying to do is raise awareness about we're not against the homeless, and we want to help the homeless, and that's what you're seeing around you right now. You're seeing toys. We started a toy drive. We'd had a block party that brought the community together. Once we fought the crime, which we've done a fabulous job on Indian School Road. We have some of the local merchants that own the little strip malls have painted. They're trying to clean up things now because they know there's hope to do that. So we shut down over half a mile of Indian School Road, and last November 8th, 25,000 Phoenicians came out for a day of just fun. We had over 100 vendors. We had 3 entertainment stages, a whole weekend art show, fine art, juried art show, and a car show. We had a classic car show. It was fabulous. And we raised $30,000 to give to plea charities so that they could then give the money back to the community. There are 3 people living on the streets. There's the mentally ill, there are truly homeless people, and there are career street criminals. These are people who choose to live on the streets and prey on the rest of us to survive. And they prey on the homeless, the mentally ill, and us. And the fact of the matter is, we have no ability to understand that when we come from a normal, you know, even relatively normal background. Why would you want to live on the street? But they do. First of all, we're educating the judges, the prosecutors, and even the officers on how to make these kinds of arrests and how to think like this. I had a young officer come to my home. He said, you know, Mrs. Malone, I've been at the academy for 2 years, and I am a siren guy. I work 3rd shift, 9 a.m. to 6 a.m., and I live for that hot call. And in between the calls, I have to say, I was sitting behind buildings, and I was talking to my wife, and I was, you know, maybe even watching a DVD. And now the commander has retrained all of us as a result of the street crime reduction program. And so I'm starting to observe things more. I don't come to work like this anymore. Now I'm sitting across the street from the Circle K down at 32nd Street and Pinchot, which is a bad area about a half mile from my house. And he said, and I have my binoculars, and I'm waiting for the beer run. And normally, previously, if I had somebody do a beer run, I'd just tell them to put it back, you know, or this or that, because it's not that big a deal. However, now I see him, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, he does a beer run, I'm right there, I catch him. And even if I had done that much before, now I won't let him go until I know who he is. And he looked at me and he said, Mrs. Malone, this guy that I caught is now doing 26 years in prison because he is a wanted pedophile. Yeah, he does 4-year-old boys, and he's doing 26 years because he stole a 12-pack. And he said, I would never have made a bust like that if I had been educated to know that most of these misdemeanors are also committing felonies. And I'm just like crying. I'm still getting goosebumps about it. Even if that's the only thing good that ever came of all of this work, it would be worth it. I could not do one thing if my husband and my children were not 100% behind me. No, nothing ever happens by one person. I'm a catalyst. And if I'm here, that means one of my kids is home setting the table right now for dinner, or somebody else is doing the laundry, you know, somebody else is making sure the 7-year-old is now getting his homework started. We're a team at home, and that's how we live. And so they know they're part of this, and I think that makes them, you know, better people too. So you just step out and you do it, and don't worry about what the results are. You just have to show up every day and do the little bit of what you can, and then let the chips fall where they may. And people are good. People are very good. And especially right now, I'm finding the harder the economic times, the more goodness you can find in people if you just ask. And that's all I do. I just go in and ask. And people are very, very generous, and I'm so grateful for that.